From a format perspective, we wanted this to be a very open discussion. So what we thought we'd do is Karen will give you a brief presentation, circa 15 minutes, around the journey that BrewDog are on at the moment from a people perspective. And then we'd look at very much a very open Q&A session. If people want to ask a question, unmute, ask the question, we'll do it. We do have quite a lot of pre-posed questions that people have submitted as well. But what we wanted to do is people, please free to ask those questions. And then if necessary, I can interject. Thank you to Donna TM, who is going to be our adjudicator and has the power to mute any one of us at any time in case we go off, message. So one thing I did want to say is, from an ESG perspective, our focus is the people element. It's how a business is able to engage with its workforce and take them on the journey. So there is actually, I guess, you know, parity between company objectives and people objectives. So it's going to be very much from that angle that we're coming from. From my point of view, with my exec search hat on, environment, sustainability, those things are becoming increasingly important when we're making selections for exec teams, which I think is a great thing. And that's, I guess, mirrored by the changes in consumer behavior, especially during the pandemic, where people are looking very closely at the brands that they actually associate with from a, from an environmental and sustainability perspective. So Karen, I'll let Karen introduce herself. I look forward to a really interesting session. Karen, over to you.
Great, thanks Trevor. And delighted to be talking to you today about the journey that BrewDog have been on over the last year. I'm actually up in the brewery in Ellen at the moment, and they've just started the distillery line behind me in the room, so if you hear any rattling, but just so you know, they're actually bottling Lone Wolf, Cactus and Lime gin right now, so I might just go and sample that it's okay later on. So as Trevor said, I'm going to talk very much about the people journey that we've been on with our sustainability. I joined BrewDog in January 2020, approximately 8 weeks before the pandemic struck. And previously, my background, I've worked in retail and hospitality. And prior to joining BrewDog, I was working at Costa, and I was working on the sale of Costa from Whitbread to Coca-Cola, so the transformation journey, and learned a lot from that around, sort of whole business transformation, and very much from Coca-Cola around the whole sustainability and approach to sustainability as well. And I'm sure everybody here knows BrewDog. We are the UK's #1 independent craft beer business. We've got breweries in Ellen, we've got a brewery in Ohio, we've got a brewery in Berlin and Brisbane, and we've now got 107 bars over 4 continents. And we've also got a direct consumer model through e-com and the grocery, plus we have our distillery as well, which, as I said earlier, you might hear behind me. And I've also been warned we might have a few of our equity punks on the call today, so hopefully I get all the facts and figures right, because I'm sure you'll be in touch if I don't. So our statement as a business is quite clear. Our mission statement is about for better beer, for a better planet, and powered by the people for all of us. And what we mean by this is, we all love great beer, and beer gets us through some pretty dark times. I'm sure many people have upped their alcohol during the last year, and we want to make sure that we're creating and producing exceptional beer that isn't mass market, that isn't the sort of cheaper beers that you can get. We want that really quality beer that we're known for. When we talk about the better planet, this is our launch of Carbon Negative. So we launched Carbon Negative last year that we're going to talk about, and empowered by our people. And this is about our employees, but also our equity punks. We're quite unique that we have 180,000 equity punks that have a stake in our business. It's quite unique, and our latest round of fundraising is BrewDog Tomorrow that we launched last year. And all the funds that we're raising from that are going to be invested into sustainability products. And so far, it has been our biggest equity raise that we have ever done in BrewDog, our most successful. So, sorry, there's a couple of people that aren't on mute. So if you're not on mute, could you just go on, because there's a bit of background noise. I think there's a couple I can see that I've muted now, so hopefully that will sort them. Okay, great, thank you. So in terms of our sort of carbon negative journey, how this really came about was last year, it was either February, March last year, literally just before the pandemic. Some of the senior leadership team went to a talk with Sir David Attenborough, and it became a real eye-opener. So we'd always had an interest in being carbon net zero, we'd talked about. And we knew after this conversation, after this dinner with Sir David Attenborough, we knew that we had to take action. And our CEO, James Watt, took the decision literally overnight, as we do in BrewDog, that we needed to do more and we needed to do it quicker and we really needed to make a difference. So other companies had gone out there to say that they would go net zero. And you can see on here, you know, we'd said it, we were going to do it before 2030, along with Patagonia and Microsoft. And Amazon had said 2040, Diageo 2050, BP, Nestle, Unilever, Ben & Jerry's had all said 2050. And straight away, it was just like, we can't wait that long. And this is where we said as well, it's not going to be enough to become carbon neutral, that we want to become carbon negative and take all of the emissions out of our entire supply chain and do a double offset. And that's where we've now become the world's first carbon negative brewery and the world's first carbon negative beer. And how we've really made sure that this became part of our business critical objectives. We work on a basis of top fives, and James, our CEO, has put this out on LinkedIn as well. So we work on top fives. And one of our top fives this year has become that we will reduce our carbon footprint by 40%. So that means it is now a business critical objective that we need to make sure that everything we're doing relates to those top five. So it has become a real high priority for us. I mean, at the time we announced this, we didn't know that the pandemic was around the corner. But what we found during the pandemic is that people, not just our consumers, but also our crew, so we call our employees crew, have really taken note about what companies have been doing and really taken more interest into sustainability. So our timing was probably quite good that we'd launched this. So we went out and we created a new benchmark and we became carbon negative. And what this means is that we're reducing the entity of our carbon footprint to less than neutral. So we've got the net effect of removing carbon from the atmosphere rather than adding to it. And this is the approach that we've taken. And of course, in BrewDog style, we had a great marketing campaign that went with it, that we always get some feedback on our marketing campaigns, but we wanted to make a statement. So we went out with our own unique style. And so what I'm going to talk about is the 5 areas that we've really focused on and how we created that employee engagement along the way. And remembering that this is all about making sure that we have a planet to brew beer on and that we should be a force for good in the climate. And we really wanted to be that industry leading benchmark that other people would take note and do it in quite a disruptive way, as with our marketing campaign, so that it was almost a message to leaders of other businesses to say, we can't wait, you know, if we don't take action now and do our bit, then we're potentially, you know, we're going to end up in a worse problems than we've got at the moment. And we've partnered with Mike Berners-Lee, who is a scientific expert. And we've just launched our latest sustainability, so our Make Earth Great report, which can be found on our website, which has all of our stats and figures in there. And we've just launched that. And again, Mike Berners-Lee does our forward thinking on this for us as well. And we work very, very closely with him and his team. So the 5 things that we focused on is we created the BrewDog Forest, which I'll talk a little bit about in a moment. We double offset our crew's carbon emissions and their dogs. We looked at the way our delivery vehicles were powered to make sure that they were carbon efficient as well. Our entire business was to become wind powered, and then we were working on turning our waste into power as well. So that's the 5 things that we did that we're going to explain a little bit more about now. So our BrewDog forest, we've actually secured a forest, which was the second forest we secured. So the first forest we had was, it didn't come off in the end, because what happened was we secured the forest and we went out and we were quite public about we've got a forest, and then the landowner kind of kept doubling the price once he realised how much PR we were putting around it. So we went and bought a better forest. So we now have a forest near Aviemore, and we will be planting millions of native trees to create a biodiverse broadleaf woodland and ecosystem. So this isn't going to be just about planting trees to offset our carbon. And in the meantime, we're working with 5 partners, woodland partners across a variety of places to do this offset for us. But we didn't want to keep on doing that. We wanted to own it ourselves and take responsibility for it ourselves. So our lost forest, and we should be starting planting, we're hopeful, by about August. It could be into next year yet, because we're still going through some planning permission, but it's going to be capable of pulling 1 million tonnes of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere once we've planted that forest. And not only that, we're going to turn it into a bit of a sustainable place that you can go. We're going to have sustainable cabins there. We're going to have a campsite. There'll be biking, there'll be hiking, there'll be kayaking in the loch as well. And so we'll really turn this into as part of an employee engagement as well, where people will be able to volunteer, where we'll be able to have, we're hoping to be able to use it as incentives to go and stay up in the forest as well. But you can see this is the approach that we take at BrewDog. I mean, it's very easy for us to partner with other companies and for them to plant trees for us and do our offset, but we take the approach that we want to own it and do it ourselves. So that's why we've got our forest. So we're hopeful that by 2022 we'll have planted 1 million trees already by 2022. So super exciting project that we've got ongoing there. And I always remember the day that we did the transfer, and then I suddenly realised I now have 2 gamekeepers on the books, whereas I'm used to having brewers and bar teams and kitchen teams, and then we had gamekeepers that have all sorts of weird allowances that we had to deal with. The second thing that we've done is, because we really thought about how can we engage our teams here so that they fully understand and have a bit of education around what is carbon and what is your own individual carbon. And we partnered with a company called PawPrint, and on PawPrint you can go in and calculate what your own carbon offset is. And this screen here, this is actually my own PawPrint. That when I first calculated, it has come down a lot now because I've changed my behaviours since realising the impact I was having. And you can see here an average UK PawPrint, so your carbon footprint is 13.1 tonnes, and mine was 15.9, which was, a lot of it was based on the fact that I travel from the Midlands up to the brewery in Scotland on a regular basis. So the pandemic helped that because I kind of couldn't travel for a long time. But this allowed our crew to really go in and understand and identify what their own patterns were, their lifestyle patterns, and how they could make some changes. So a few of the changes, apart from the travel, that I was able to make is, and this was down to education and lack of awareness. I'd never kind of figured that buying fruit that wasn't in season in the UK, so was being imported in, how much of an impact that was having to my own carbon footprint. So I stopped doing it. And even, you know, just being a bit lazy and putting the tumble dryer on all the time instead of putting the washing out to dry naturally, you know, is huge on your carbon. So we've really educated our teams on their own personal behaviours. And what we're doing is for everybody that calculates their own PawPrint, we also double offset that as part of our emissions. So we put that into our calculations. And then we sort of said, and this was our incentive of our carbon negative crew, and we class this as an employee benefit. not only we wanted to do it in a BrewDog style, so we thought anybody can do that, but in a BrewDog style, we actually calculate your dog as well. So if you've got a dog, we calculate the carbon footprint or paw print of your dog. And there is an official calculation for this. We haven't made it up, and it's based on the size of your dog. And we double offset that as well. So a great way to engage our teams. On top of that as well, we have a sustainability suggestion scheme. So the suggestions come in, and if they get implemented, we have a unicorn bonus. And the unicorn bonus is where we pay a percentage of our profits split equally amongst the team. And that unicorn bonus, if you have a suggestion that is implemented, we will actually pay double the unicorn bonus as well. It's a great way to engage our crew in sustainability measures. The next thing we did is we looked at our vehicles, and we now have our electric vehicles on the road, which is absolutely brilliant to see, especially up here in Scotland. So we do all of our local deliveries through our electric vehicles. And now we're also delivering to our London customers. We've got the first electric 9-ton vehicles out in London as well now. So we changed our fleet to this electric fleet, which was a great initiative that we did. The next big initiative was that we connected our brewery to a wind farm that we could actually see. So this we can see from our brewery. So we connected our brewery up to this. We changed all of our electricity providers as well to make sure that all of our premises are now powered by wind. And we've recently managed to connect our brewery so that our brewery is now carbon efficient as well. But that's not the biggest thing that we've done at our brewery. The biggest thing we've done, and quite a complex diagram, but we received planning permission to create a bio plant at BrewDog. And this work has now commenced. So we've got all the guys on site doing this work for us now. But what this will help us to do, this turns our spent grain into green gas, which we then use to power our brewery. So what that will do will reduce our water usage by about 50%. So this is part of the project that we've got ongoing at the moment that we're doing a huge financial investment into as well, that's started recently. So what we can see by this is through our approach, we've managed to engage with our customers through announcing that we're doing this. And again, as I said earlier, we've found that during the pandemic, people have become more conscious about the environment and the companies and where people want to spend their leisure pounds. They want to spend their leisure pounds with companies who are doing the right thing. We've engaged our crew through having the opportunity to actually calculate your own carbon output and having that double offset as well. And that's had some great feedback that we've done that across the business. But also the opportunity to put suggestions in that we've had a few of them that we've not thought of and we've been able to implement. We've redefined our mission statement and our values around this as well. So, very much now about the better planet, and we've turned that into one of our top 5 objectives for the year. And we've created that sustainability message in a very BrewDog way. So you can officially now not feel guilty about drinking BrewDog beer, because by drinking BrewDog beer, you're genuinely having a positive impact on our planet. We also launched buy one plant, get one tree. So for every multi-pack that we were selling, you can log on and we will plant a tree for every multi-pack that's sold as well. And we're working with our grocers on more initiatives around this to really get that sustainability message out there. So that is very much a whistle-stop tour of what we've done as a business. I think I pretty much stuck to the 15 minutes, Trevor, so that's good going. Yeah, but we thought the richness might come out of the questions rather than me talking for much longer. So I shall
Thanks, Karen.
Stop sharing.
So yeah, thanks, Karen. Really appreciate that. Yeah, that quick whistle-stop summary. So really, it's down to the floor. So I've got questions in case we have some awkward quiet moments. But please, if you'd like to unmute and ask a question, Karen is drinking her non-alcoholic beer. So there we go, nothing like product placement. Who's first?
Hi Karen, it's Leo here from Robert Half.
Hi Leo.
Hi there. Thanks very much for sharing your story. It's fascinating and it's amazing to see how well the business is is doing on this agenda. Really like the way that you talk about getting your staff involved and sort of gaining that consensus, getting them to come to the table with ideas. How do you go about that? It'd be good to just learn a little bit more about how you actually engage them, how you get them to interact and come to the party with ideas for you to help your sustainability agenda, and then how that sort of links in with the unicorn bonus that you talked about.
So we've got a great internal app, communication app that we use, and we promote everything on there. We do live feeds through to our main websites as well. So anything that gets put out into the social media world, everybody internally can see. And what we found through that, and then advertising the okay, we want you to calculate your own paw print. That really engaged people, and as a senior leadership team, we all did it and shared what our own paw print was coming out at, so that we could show to the rest of the crew where we needed to change our behaviours. We've also started to do challenges as well with paw print. So we're doing a global challenge at the moment where, by changing behaviours and recalculating and reducing your paw print, we're turning that into miles. And we're actually trying to get all the way around the globe, around all of our bars, as a bit of a global challenge at the moment, by people recalculating and just trying to turn things into habit forming. So it's not just that, okay, I dried my clothes without the tumble dryer for a week. It's how do I turn that into a habit? So that's how we're doing it. And then the sustainability suggestion schemes, we were inundated. People in BrewDog don't hold back. One of our dogmas is challenge everything. So in BrewDog, you have a license to challenge. It's more of a problem if you don't challenge in BrewDog. If you stay quiet, that's more of a problem. So people were very happy to challenge absolutely everything. And this has come from the packaging that we're using, the way we're recycling in the bars. Why are we not doing, why have we not got water tanks on the top of our brewery to catch rainwater to flush the toilets with? I mean, they really did go for it on the suggestions. Very wide ranging, some super easy. Even, we were being challenged on, I drive past Dog Tap at Ellen every morning when I come into work and the lights are all on. Why? That's not very energy efficient. So yeah, we certainly don't have a shortage of ideas coming through.
Love that, thank you.
Well, who's next? We need a non-Robert Half person.
Hi, it's Justin Bazalgett here. I'm really interested in, it's a fantastic story. I really love it. It sounds big picture and sort of systemic in its approach. I guess the big challenge most companies have is around how they justify that from a financial perspective and how they build that in and get their shareholders on board. Can you just talk a little bit about that experience? I mean, has there been a big investment in here? Is there a payback? Is it about the commitment of the owners? What's the situation there?
Yeah, so very much, our approach has been that it's probably more financially damaging if we don't do something. When you look at consumer behaviour now, so very much we took the view of we have to do something here and we need to do it quickly. That's why our Equity Punk raise is all about sustainability. So we've been raising the money through our shareholders to spend on all of the sustainable projects. And that's what we said, we're not going to, the only thing we're spending that latest raise on is sustainability projects that we wanted to do. So like doing the water bioplant up here in the brewery, connecting to the wind farms. So that's where we've sort of done a lot of the financials from. But there's a lot of other investment that's going in as well. And that's one thing, I can't go into the true financials of it on this call for obvious reasons, but it's probably more damaging to the bottom line if we don't do something to have that real sustainability message out there now.
Maybe just as a follow-up then, are you seeing some uptake from, positive feedback from customers? You talked a lot about your crew. and obviously the shareholders and the stakeholders, but what about the consumers? What's been the sort of feedback?
Again, consumer behaviour, our brand points went up. I can't remember the figure that they went up by when we did the last survey, but our brand points have gone up. It's difficult with our bar teams, because our bar customers, because they've only just come back a week ago. But the messaging that we get from the customers that we talk to during the different phases of the pandemic is they absolutely love it. And you know, our equity punks as well, they're our customers as well as our investors. You know, and they're very, very positive and supportive of what we're doing and the messaging. So you know, the link that we're making is that our brand percentage points and our business is doing so well because of the work we're doing around sustainability. And our amazing beer, obviously.
Hi, Karen, it's Yvonne here. Thanks for your presentation. It was really, really insightful. So also congratulations on B Corp, BrewDog becoming a B Corp. So I've seen a lot of the comms around that. So my question is, how much did the B Corp accreditation factor into your sustainability aims and goals? And how widely did you engage your employees, or rather your crew, on the process towards getting the accreditation?
Thanks, Yvonne. And you've just pointed out, I completely forgot to say we're a B Corp accredited organisation that we announced only a few weeks ago. We've actually been on that journey for a couple of years, so long before we started with our carbon negative, that we've been working through B Corp. It was quite, I mean, we were halfway through when I joined the business, so a lot of the hard work had already been done. We probably didn't over-engage with our crew on that one, because there's so much of it that is process-driven as well with the B Corp. It almost reminded me of, for anybody on this call who's been through Investors in People, it almost reminded me of like an Investors in People of producing your portfolio of evidence around everything that you're doing. But it was great because it really made us think hard about some of our own processes, and whether that was from some of our policies around people that we were doing that we needed to review, whether it was our own process on how we calculated carbon emissions. It was a great process. So yeah, probably one that we didn't over-engage the crew on, other than those people who were really involved in the project, but it was quite a wide-reaching project team across all disciplines that we had working through that.
Thanks, Karen, that's really great.
Hi, Karen. It's Ollie Phillips from McBride. It's interesting you're new to BrewDog, and I wanted to get your perspective on whether you think it would have been as achievable at Costa to run a parallel journey. And the reason I asked the question is because I think the relative age of BrewDog is almost complementary to the objectives in terms of what you're trying to achieve. And for a lot of other attendees on the call, I'd imagine there are organisations that are much older, have cultures set in stone, boards set in stone, exco culture set in stone. I'd just be interested if you could share any learnings or differences between, maybe, it doesn't have to be Costa, because I appreciate you might not be able to talk about them, but the difference between achievability in a newer organisation versus one that's been around a bit longer. Does that make sense? Yeah,
absolutely. Great question. So I won't use any specific companies because there's probably a couple that I can relate this to. I think the thing with BrewDog is this has come from the leader of our business, from the founders of our business. So there's no question about it. This wasn't, me or the CEO saying we think we should do this. This was the founder of the business saying we're doing it. So that means we're doing it. So there was never any closed doors that we had to push through to do what we wanted. It was more about, why are you not going quick enough? One of our dogmas, I talk about our dogmas, one of our dogmas is we work in dog years. So what what you would normally achieve in 7 years, we will achieve it in under a year in BrewDog because of the pace that we work at. So, you know, it's very much about do it quicker. I would say some businesses that I've worked in, trying to make the slightest change was like trying to move an oil tanker in the Suez Canal, I would say, and you just couldn't do it. It took too long, and especially with a previous organisation, Ollie, that you might have mentioned, when they were acquired by an even bigger American corporation, trying to do anything took even longer as well. Because where in BrewDog you will have, you know, so my remit, I will, if we wanted to do, let me think, like a code of conduct for example, in our business, it would be me and the legal team, like the legal director, that would probably write it, sign it off, and publish it. When you work in a bigger corporation, there is probably a department that looks after every element of it who want to get involved. So it's much harder to implement. At BrewDog, we're an extremely lean team. We have very flat management structures as well. And we're all pretty close to the action. So we know what's going on the front line all the time, which makes it much easier to make decisions and implement things a lot quicker. So I think you're right, the younger the company, and you've got to have your CEO up for it to make the change, or it's not going to happen.
Really helpful, thank you.
So just following up on that, it was interesting. I was talking to a company who wanted to implement PawPrint, and I always remember implementing PawPrint was so easy. We just connected with PawPrint and we launched it. And this company was talking to me and saying, yeah, but how did you get it through the legals? How did you get it through the data protection team? And they were reeling off all these things. I was like, we just did it. And I think that's the way that we operate in BrewDog. We kind of come up with the idea and we just do it and deal with the consequences after.
I'd imagine in a number of cases you don't have precedent as well. You know, if it's a policy, it might be the first time you've had to tackle the policy, so you're not replacing something that already exists and people have absorbed and know how it works. You're just introducing something for the first time. Is that fair?
Absolutely. But also, we never use the word policy in BrewDog. We don't have them.
What do you have? Go on.
We might have a process or a procedure, but we definitely don't have a policy. I remember when I joined, I got called up on that in my first week when I mentioned policy, and they're like, no, Karen, we don't do those.
Fair enough.
Please don't be shy.
Oh, sorry.
Good.
Can
I was going to say, don't be shy, so I'll shut up again now.
Hello. I was wondering, do you have a chief sustainability officer? And if not, kind of, how do you see the role of a chief sustainability officer in a company like yours?
Yep, we don't. We've talked about it, and we've talked about whether we might do something in the future. But right now we're quite happy working with Mike Berners-Lee as our advisor. And it's not a route, you know, I probably get one question a week asking this from somebody who would be interested in doing that role for us, and the answer is always the same. Right now we're not ready to have that role internally. We're quite happy working with external experts and consultants.
Just a quick question here from Emma from Robert Half. I can see that obviously BrewDog have got huge growth plans, a lot of growth in the US and opening up a bar in Las Vegas and things. Do you think your idea of not having policies and doing things kind of as things come up, it seems to say, or not having such rigor and process around everything, do you think that's scalable when you're looking to grow so much, or how will you try and keep those, I guess, quite organic routes through that growth?
Yeah, it's probably just because we don't have policies, it doesn't mean we don't have the rigor that sits behind it. We absolutely do. We just don't formalize it as such. You know, so we don't have an employee handbook, for example. We just try not to have those formalized policies. We have that sort of like adult relationship within BrewDog, which just helps us make decisions a lot quicker than getting tied up on policy and procedure. There's definitely still the rigor behind it. Yeah, no, it's not that informal.
Great, thank you very much.
Aaron, Andy Vasella from Riverford. You mentioned that you work with 5 partners on the kind of offsetting. How far do you think BrewDog can get to carbon negative without using offsetting? And how far do you think you get through your own kind of actions?
So this is our, we'd love to be able to say that we can do all of it, but because we offset throughout our whole supply chain, it's really difficult. And that's why this year we've said we want to reduce by 40%. We'll put ourselves up for another hard target next year as well. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. And obviously we'll have our own forest next year as well to start doing the offset. Great question. I don't think we've set ourselves that target yet. I think if we can achieve the 40% this year, then we'll be pretty happy. But last year we managed to do, so I was looking at the stats earlier. So last year we managed to reduce our water by 37%, electricity by 26%, and gas by 29%. So we did pretty well last year, taking quite a lot out, and that's per hectolitre. And for those of you who don't know, a hectolitre is equivalent to 175 pints. So we managed to take quite a lot out last year without having the wind farm, without having the bioplant in place as well. So we did get quite a bit out last year.
Thank you very much. 40% is an incredible target to
Wait for next year's mega report to see if we did it.
Karen, it's Bob Andrews. Can I just ask, because you have this sort of single-minded focus on the environment, but how do you apply the same level of focus to the financials? I mean, there's rapid growth. I saw the new hotel, which I'm very much looking forward to, getting an invite to, on beer by the bed, fantastic. But there's an awful lot of investment in all of that, and you need to get a return from it, because otherwise this great idea, goes puff, because equity punks are only going to be there for so long. So what's your focus on that?
So it's only one of our top 5s. So the sustainability is only one of our top 5s. We have the focus on there as well around our EBITDA figures. We have the focus on our expansion, which few people have talked about how we're starting to expand, and through franchise partners as well. We also have a focus on our direct consumer model. Plus how our focus around taking our lager a little bit more mainstream as well. So not just being about punk IPA, but focusing on our Lost Lager offering as well. So it isn't just about sustainability. That is 1/5 of what we're focusing on this year. Bob, are you an equity punk by chance?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And my cupboard is full of BrewDog beer. I absolutely love it. I love the whole philosophy of it. And by the way, your customer service is second to none. When there's
brilliant.
a problem, they fix it so well and in such a great way. It's a great organisation to engage with. So yeah, big fan. Didn't want to go on about it too long.
I tell you what, the hazy AF is tasting amazing today. I'm glad I got this out of the cupboard.
See, whilst we're on the subject and have access to a senior person, you really need to brew more Barnard Castle eye test, because that's the best beer.
Everybody loved that. It was pretty amazing tasting.
Yeah. No, it's great philosophy though. It seriously is. I think it's the whole concept of buying and growing a forest. I think there's a lot of businesses that should in their own way take a leaf out of that. So
brilliant. Nice to chat, Bob.
Thank you. Likewise.
Karen, I was just wondering if you've seen much change or much feedback in terms of your employer brand, if you've been recruiting and that kind of angle as well. So obviously you talked about customers, but just what you've seen from a sort of starting where we began with Trevor's comments at the start.
Yeah, definitely. Most recruitment applications that we get through now start with, we love how BrewDog have pivoted themselves and come across during the pandemic as well. Just everything that we did from a changing our distillery from gin and vodka to hand sanitizer through the pandemic, offering up our centres as vaccination centres, donating water. So we started doing water and handing that out to the vaccination centres. So, so many of our applications, they just start with, we absolutely love what BrewDog are doing. And we get inundated with spec applications as well, which all start with, we love the brand and we love how, I suppose, how quirky the brand is, but also how they're really taking their impact on the environment seriously. So, yes, brilliant for our employer brand.
So quite interesting, really. I guess you've got the challenge of people coming in with incredibly high levels of engagement you've then got to sustain, rather than kind of trying to, make sure that they sort of buy into things as part of that process. So that's quite an interesting angle of it.
It's certainly going to be a challenge this year.
Hi Karen, just building on the back of that, it's Adam Ainsley from Howarth Air Technology. How do you sort of maintain that culture within the business you've got this massive growth going on, just what sort of things do you do to maintain that?
So I know I mentioned towards the beginning that we have our employee app, which is a huge engagement tool that we launched in September last year. And we're able to communicate with every single member of the crew, no matter where they are, which country they are, whether they're on the production line in the brewery, out in retail, out in Ohio. The same messages go out to everybody that it didn't before. We were very email culture led, and one of the things I focused on as soon as I joined was we have to get our internal comms right here. And through that, we're, instead of death by PowerPoint or emails every week, we're able to do video messaging as well. So we'll have, whether it's James or David, our COO, we'll do weekly updates by video, which are a lot more engaging to hear somebody talk about something rather than trying to trawl through a load of figures. Plus regular updates on our unicorn bonus fund, on how we're doing as well, so they can see how profitable we are as a business and where we need to focus. And we're very, very open as a business with our comms. We kind of don't hold back. Some of the feedback we get is sometimes we might be a little bit too open, that we might share a bit too much, which could lead to a bit of uncertainty. We had that feedback quite a bit during the pandemic, that we were probably a bit too open. But we really focus on making sure that we're honest, open, transparent with everything that we're doing, which is how we engage our teams.
And it sounds like you've got an open feedback loop for employees. Again, is that open, or is it a rigored process?
Oh, it's very open. On our app, we have a space on there which is called Ask Me Anything, and our leadership team, we're called Mission Control, and it's basically ask Mission Control anything, and they do ask us anything, and we commit to a public response. And yeah, they will ask us absolutely everything and anything. Again, as I said, one of our dogmas is challenge everything. We're up for being challenged, so we respond very, very openly as well.
So Karen, you raised another interesting point, because so much of BrewDog is based around James, really, isn't it? And James, I'm the other chap because I only know James. And what happens? What happens when they decide they've had enough? How's your planning going for succession?
We'll be all right. That's as committed as I'm going to get on that question. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. That was my most non-committal answer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't mean it to be such a tough question, but there you go. Thanks.
I don't think they've got no plans to go anywhere.
It's Andy Green. I just wondered, I was interested from what have you learned around the sort of the geographies and the regions that you're operating in? Are you finding different passions in different areas, and how do you maintain that sort of equilibrium across you've obviously got the culture set, but then how do you find sort of the different geographies and regions respond to that? What have you learned over that period?
Yeah, it's a great question. What we're finding is where we have a leadership presence on site is much easier. So we have a leadership presence on site in Brisbane, Ohio, Berlin, and obviously a lot in the UK. Probably Europe is an area that we need to focus on. So we have a lot of bars in multiple countries across Europe where we don't have, you know, a very senior leader on site all the time, and that's probably an area that we know we need to focus on this year. But also engaging our franchise partners across the globe as well in what we're doing is going to be really important, because when you go into a BrewDog bar, you won't know whether it's a franchise or an equity model. So just making sure that we are fully engaging our partners in what we're doing so that they come on that same journey with us as well is super important to us. But yeah, local nuances as well. What works in America isn't necessarily going to work in Berlin. So, you know, we're very, very conscious of making sure that we do stuff that is global, but can be localized as well.
Thank you.
Hi Karen, it's James Fitzgerald here from Protivity. I've seen some discussion about businesses providing more information to customers about, you know, the environmental impact of the products. It's sort of similar to what's already required in terms of nutritional information. Is this something that BrewDog already do or have discussed internally?
Yeah, I mean, we started putting, we tried it out on our menus, and do you know what? I'm now questioning myself, are we doing it still, or are we still trialing it? But we actually put a carbon emission on our menu so that you could see what you were ordering not only has the nutritional information, but has the carbon footprint of that product as well. And I know we trialed it. See, I don't look at the menu because I know them so well now. I haven't looked at the menu recently when I'm ordering, but do you know what? I'm going to go and do that later. I'm going to go to our dog tap bar and see if we put it on there. But it's certainly something we trialed towards the end of last year to make sure. But the big question, I know when I first saw it, I was like, well, what does it mean? If you don't understand about carbon offsetting, how do you know what that actually means? So we were working on how do you equate it to something that people would understand. So whether it's miles driven in a car or X amount of tons of electricity, to put it into something that people easily can relate to, so you understand the impact of what you're doing. And that, you know, we've got a very strong vegan and vegetarian branding as well on our menu. So, you know, that you can tell the difference between the two once you start to look at it.
Thank you.
Quick question that we haven't answered, that was one of the pre-posed ones, because I've been keeping an eye on them. So Karen, one of the questions that somebody submitted in advance was very much that, okay, BrewDog are making all of these changes, but are you actively trying to influence or change the wider industry that you're conducting, or the business culture? What steps are you taking to try and, you know, share that message and help other people along your journey?
Absolutely. Within the craft beer industry, we're making a huge impact, and lots of other breweries are now starting to take note. I can't remember which brewery it was, but a couple of months ago, another brewery actually put that they were the first carbon negative brewery in the UK. And then in the small print, they put something like with less than 200 employees, because they knew that we were the first one, and it was a bit of we've done it as well, and then real small print that you couldn't really see. So we know that we're making an impact. If another brewery is sort of like coming back at us from a PR perspective, and working with Mike Berners-Lee, and in the foreword on our latest mega report, you know, he even talks about that we're really standing up and starting to make a difference because we're showing the leadership around this. And last year, when they cancelled the climate summit that was due to take place in Glasgow last year, we actually went ahead with it. So with BrewDog and Sir Tom Hunter, we actually put the alt cop on. So we went ahead with it on the date it would have been on, and we did our own thing, which was absolutely fascinating. So we had loads of expert speakers talking about the environmental change, and that was very much driven by BrewDog. So we know that we're really starting to make that difference now. And that's what we're making that stand to say, you know, we want to be a force for good, and we want others to follow in our footsteps. but we've also got to remember, you know, we've got a core proposition of producing great beer as well. So we've got to make sure we focus on what our product is at the same time.
Yeah, thanks for that, Karen. I mean, I think the follow-up question that also someone had posed was around, and I think you mentioned already, around all the, you know, Corp B, and there's almost like a group of corporations, you know, certified corporations working together to then influence other people. Is that you know, is that network becoming more and more formal?
Not overly formal at the moment, but we're definitely, you know, a lot of what we get asked to talk about now as a business is around sustainability, and our messaging and our crew involvement. So, you know, you can start to tell, because we're being asked to speak, and James gets asked to speak about this a lot now, that we can tell that's where we are getting that brand awareness out, and that name around, actually this is the way to go as a true leader in your industry. You've got to put a stand out there. And that's, I suppose, coming right back to the beginning, to say it wasn't enough for us to say, let's be carbon neutral. Lots of other companies did that. That's why we went harder and said it's going to be carbon negative.
Thanks, Karen. Now, I know you said you've got a hard stop, so we need to finish up. You know, this one. Have we got time for one more question? Who wants the last question from Karen before our next meeting?
My next meeting is actually with Pawprint to talk about how I can help them get their product out there a little bit more into the marketplace as well. So I'm carrying on the sustainability journey.
So it's on Pawprint that's kind of interested me, because clearly BrewDog, Pawprint, you know, it's a nice convenient partnership. But do they, you know, what's I suppose the best way to engage with them, because it sounds like a great idea, but it suits your business. Will it suit every business, you know?
Definitely. If you log onto their website, you can easily engage with them, and go on and you can do. Catherine's just registered. She's just told me. Well done, Catherine. And you can go on and calculate your own Pawprint on there. You know, we're a founder member, so we're the first members, and we're actually helping them to develop their product through all the feedback that we're giving them. But I mean, I know they're working in the financial sector, so I don't think it's any secret now. They're working with Standard Life, because I know they're on the call with me later. So they're across a variety of, you know, of industries. So it absolutely works in any business. Even if you don't do anything with it, just that knowledge and education for your teams to be able to go on. But I'd encourage all of you, go on and calculate your own Pawprint. You'll be quite shocked. I was, and made some behaviour changes straight away.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to get into it at the moment. I feel like I've been at home for the last year, so I think I'm going to be a bit unnaturally low. See what happens when we change. So great. Well, it's been a really good session. Karen, I promised that we'd finished off promptly, which we have done. Thanks for your questions. I mean, there will be a recording of this, but what I wanted to do was try and maybe use it as a bit of a catalyst to develop this further, because I think one of the things that's come from this, that other organisations will be interested in the BrewDog journey and maybe the things you can learn from it to maybe, you know, help them. So I know for a fact I've made one of the recommendations to Robert Half to see if we can use Pawprint, because there are a lot of things that we need to take from. So I think, you know, it is around seeing where we can all actually get involved in that. And I do understand that larger corporates, yes, will have more hurdles to go through, but you know, it's all about incremental change. So I'll stop being Greta Thunberg and let you all go. And Karen, enjoy an alcoholic drink.
I will later.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Bye.